Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is so good to have you in our automating boring data stuff live stream for the month. I am really excited, but as you could probably see from my face and everything, I'm also a little bit still sleepy. It's because it's 4 a.m. Can you believe it? 4 a.m. in the morning for me. So I can see that some of you are tuning in from different parts of the world. And, for some of you, it is also early. So you probably would sympathize with me. And to top it, I had gone for a boys' night yesterday with some of my mates, and we all went bowling and then had some drinks. So I need an extra strong coffee to keep me going. Anyhow, welcome everyone. First up, let me know in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. I hope there's no audio issues. And yes. All right, let's just play some of the welcomes. We got people from all over the world tuning into this. Dedi says, hello from Jakarta, Indonesia. That is super clear. Awesome. Hey, JD. And Dhananjay says, hello, everyone. Hi, Chandu. Good evening from India. Hello, Dhananjay. Hello, everyone from wherever you are. And Arturo says, hello from Mexico. So I recognize this name from some of the previous live streams as well. So welcome back. And Saif Ali Shah says, hello from Australia. Hey, Saif, I know it's probably even earlier in the morning for you. I couldn't even call it morning, so it's probably midnight for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And wow. Mandy says, hello from South Africa. Hey, Mandy, how are you? And if anyone is from Ohio, I always try to identify them. Ken says, hello from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey, Ken. This is because I lived for a good 1 year in Columbus, Ohio. So I have got a lot of connections there. Natalie says from Knoxville, Tennessee, USA. And ooh, wow, the messages are too fast. Sedan says hello from Germany. Danu says hello from Qatar. And Pallavi from Bahrain. So we got people from all over the world. And if you can watch this and observe what is going on here, all the world, the entire world has the same problem. And that problem is we don't want to do boring, repetitive tasks when it comes to our work. Anything creative, anything fun, anything interesting, anything that sparks you, that is all good. But if it is just hey, take this, do this again, do this again, do this again, that is something that we all hate. And that's kind of what united all of us here in this session. So welcome everyone. I've got a very awesome session planned for you. Before we kind of jump into that, I do need to take frequent sips of my coffee to keep me going. So while we kind of get set up and everything, do tell me in the chat, what is it that you are drinking, if you are drinking something, because for me, this is going to be for the next 60 to 90 minutes. So I need to keep going. So I have got something here. So what is it that you're drinking? Let me know. And while that is something that people are typing, make sure that you are grabbing the session files for this particular live stream. The download link is already updated in the live stream description of the video. Just go there. This time around, I have got a little bit different way of giving the files. This is because I recently launched a mini Power Query course. So I'm bundling this live stream with that. So you will see that when you go to the page, if you are planning to download and follow along, you don't have to download anything. You can just sit back and watch the show, learn something, go back and do it, because most of the time the challenge is we all deal with dirty data, but your dirty data is different from my dirty data. So whatever example I prepared will not directly connect to your line of work. It will have some common themes. So if you don't want to download the files, that is super cool. All right, let's just see what our people are drinking. Gayatri says water with lemon, always a great choice. Murthy says sugarcane juice. Whoa. It's been a couple of years since I had sugarcane juice, because it's not something that you get everywhere. I'm itching when I go back to India. This is one of those things that I'll definitely try. Vikas is having juice. Tony is having coffee. And Adarsh is having water. Ken is having green tea to relieve the stress of repetitive tasks, since I haven't mastered Power Query yet. Are you telling me, Ken, that you will probably switch to something a little stronger, like maybe beer or whiskey, once you know Power Query? Because I know Power Query and I'm still on coffee. All right. Janet says chocolate coffee. Kuldar says latte macchiato. Wow. Bornvita. Akshay Patel. Coca-Cola. And Sean says water and dark chocolate, as I don't like coffee. Okay, we are going to have a problem, Sean, because I really like coffee. All right. I think now that we kind of established some of the things, I just want to again put the reminder that you can grab the files. The files for the session are in the video description. I'm gonna quickly enable my screen sharing mechanism, and then we are off. All right, so okay, time to turn off the ticker on what are you drinking, and let's get into the session. So you know what, before even we start, I need to tell you this is really important, not related to the session, but this is something that is super important for all of us, which is between the time that I did my last session at the start of April and this session, our channel reached 200,000 subscribers. And I just wanted to thank you, everyone who is watching my videos, this one and all other videos, for the love and love and support that you show on the channel. So a big thank you for everyone who supports my mission of making you and everyone in the world awesome. So thank you. And I thought we should acknowledge that that critical benchmark of getting 200,000 subscribers. And now let's move on to the regular program. All right. So you can grab the files, like I mentioned in the video description link that is there. I will I'll now get into the problem. So this problem originated with one of the situations in the Awesome Chocolates company. Awesome Chocolates is a made-up company that I use in many of my videos and examples, and this is also one of the scenarios that I kind of created for Awesome Chocolates. So what happened in Awesome Chocolates is we sell chocolates, and we are a chocolate, not a retail chocolate company, but a wholesale chocolate company. So we make chocolates that eventually get sold in the supermarkets to customers. So many times our chocolate orders come from bulk supermarkets and we just ship them boxes. Most of these orders are automated. But sometimes what happens is our customers also receive a traditional order form for the chocolates. So one of the order forms looks like this. So here in this particular challenge, I will show you how to deal with data and situations where things can be a little bit more unconventional and how to handle that. So so as you can see, this is my customer order form within Awesome Chocolates. It does look fairly clean, so it's not like super dirty data we're talking about, but it is. You will quickly understand that this kind of a format is a pain to work with if you want to do anything meaningful when it comes to doing data analysis. So I'll quickly zoom in so we can see what is going on here. The order form has kind of a standard template, which is you got your salesperson name and customer name. So here we have got salesperson Barfani and customer some board Venner. Their details are only mentioned once in the order form. And then further down, we have got all of these product wise, how many boxes they want on each of the days. The dates themselves may not be continuous. Like you see here, 2nd of May, they want 114 boxes of fruit and nut bars. And then 5th of May, they want 108 of 99% pure and dark and pure, like that. So the dates will go like this. Sometimes there will be dates up to 15 different days, because this order form, you can only enter up to 15 days of data. So it's kind of like a traditional order form. Some of our clients fill up and send it to the salespeople, and then we will have to fulfill the orders. Now, the big challenge, this is where you and I come in, is for us to look at this data and do some analysis work. The problem here is the data is all there. For example, if I want to know how many total mint chip chocos we need to ship, we could kind of do some simple analysis of adding the column up or adding this row up and then saying, whatever that number is, 600 boxes. But the problem, because of the way it is structured, it kind of gets a little bit clunky and messy. We don't know how far to sum and all of that. And if I have got multiple order forms from Barfani in different files, then we don't know exactly how to add things up. So that's where the challenge is. This is one order form, but as I mentioned, we have got hundreds of order forms. So this is the folder where I have kept some of our order forms. And now in this session, we're going to understand how you can take data that is kind of messed up and confused and garbled like this, and then how you can create a system through which you can combine all of this data in one go into a final master table. So that's really what the live session is going to be all about. We'll take the files, we'll build a repetitive process that will just get all the data, make sure that it is in a neat single table format at the end of it, so that any number of files you feed to it, it's going to just take everything and then combine and put it in one place. So if you think that is the most awesome thing you have heard all week or all day or all year, please stay on and enjoy the rest of the session. If you already know some parts of it but not all of it, again, stay on. Yeah, so that's that. We will get into actually zooming the screen and making sure that you can read things a bit later. But now, because I'm only demoing the file, there is not much to really, I'm not doing anything, and the files are already provided to you. So this is the files that I have provided you. When you download the files, it is a zip file that contains all these order forms and everything. I'll quickly talk about the rest of the files. So in the the files that I gave you, there is also a combined data Excel workbook that has the final output from Excel that has all the data combined. So if you want to see how the finalized output looks like, that's the file, but that's what we are going to construct in the next 60 to 90 minutes. Along way, you are gonna learn some really powerful features. So you'll understand how Power Query works. You will understand how to build a function within Power Query. This is one of the most powerful and advanced functionalities of Power Query. And then how to run that function over and over again. Some of the best practice when it comes to building such functions and using all of that. So this is really what the session's kind of agenda is all about. I hope kind of that kind of sets the ground for what we are going to achieve. And feel free to grab the files if you want to follow along. Otherwise, also that is cool. All right. So let's just switch back to this and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Excel, and then this is just a blank file. And then from this blank file, we will kind of bring up all the data together into the final blank file. That's really what we will achieve. So blank file in Excel, and then from here, it's all fairly straightforward process. For those of you who are not sure, like my Excel doesn't look like Chandu's Excel kind of a thing. I'm using Excel 365. I'm also on the Insider program. So some of the buttons and features that you see, even though you are using Excel 365, let's say your screen and my screen might be different, because the Insider option in Office means sometimes you will get access to features that are still being developed by Microsoft. So you can also opt for that, but that's something not relevant, and it's not even related to what we are talking about in this session. The important thing though is whatever I'm demoing, most of the ideas can be applied in any version of Excel from Excel 2013. There are some subtle differences between how the actual application works, but the ability to use Power Query and the ability to write functions has existed since 2013 version of Excel. So if you're using any version of Excel in the last 9 years, you're pretty good. The only other problem here is if you're using Mac Excel, then the Power Query applicability is and compatibility is not all the way up there. So I hope you're not on Mac, but if you're on Mac, then you can watch this and then practice the ideas when you go back to PC. All right. So we have got the screen here, and then the first thing that we want to do is we want to bring the files here and then combine them. I'll show you how the process is for a single file first, because then you will understand the true power of Power Query. So and then when we do it for the first file, you will understand certain key concepts, and then we will see how to kind of repeat that process for the entire file. This is really this way you get kind of like a repetition of that, and then if anything was confusing the first time, second time it will become clear. So we can go to the data ribbon, and from here you can access all the Power Query related functionalities. So they are sitting here in this little corner called Get and Transform Data. And our data is, even though it is a little bit messed up, it is all in spreadsheet. So it's easy for me to just get the data from file from Excel workbook. So that's really the path, and we'll connect to that. And then here you just want to point to the file location where the individual file is. Now, right now we are only going to do the process for a single file, and then we'll repeat the process for the whole bunch again. So I'm just gonna go to my live stream folder, order forms, and then pick any order form. It doesn't matter. For the sake of simplicity and consistency, I'm gonna pick the COF 001, the very first order form, and then click on import. So this is gonna further open up a navigator screen, and within the navigator screen, you can now kind of do a preview of the data. Power Query will show you, this is the data that I found. Are you happy with this? Another key note here, whatever you do within Power Query, even though I'm demoing this with an Excel file as the source data, you can apply the same ideas, same concepts for your SQL data sets, for your text files, for your web pages, or for your XML files. Whatever is your source data, you can apply that. So don't think, oh, this awesome chocolates example is not for me. Nah, that's not the case, because the technique and the application and the versatility of this is so powerful that if you ignore this feature of Excel, you will be doing a lot of repetitive work manually or using some other older technologies. So that's really important here. So yeah, the navigator, we just select this and then it's going to show you how the data looks like to the navigator. As you can see, this is really messed up. A single file itself, for our eyes, it looks super clean, but when we are looking at it from the Power Query perspective, it only sees the data. There is a lot of null values, it's all mismatch and everything. So we will need to do the transform data step. If I directly load it, it's going to be useless for me. I can't do any analysis for this one file alone. Forget about doing it for hundreds of files. So we need to use the transform data button. I'm going to click on that and that'll kind of jump into the Power Query editor screen. All right, while we go there, I just want to give a shout out to our first super sticker, Zakia, sends in a super sticker. Thank you so much, Zakia. I really appreciate it. And the other one, this is something that I get in the chat messages from time to time. So I thought, we'll just acknowledge this first. If it is looking a little bit blurry or the video quality is not good, it is more likely that at your end things are not working, not at my end, because I stream at a higher resolution. So I'm gonna quickly pull up a picture that will tell you how to do this. Just give me a second. But essentially what you want to do is on the video, down at the bottom in the corner, like where my thing is, you will see that there is a gear button or a cog button. So you just want to tap on that and then, change the video quality from whatever 480p or whatever you're watching to 1080. All right, this is the picture. So I hope you see this. So on the video, you will have like a little bit gear icon kind of a thing. And from here, change it to the highest number that you see. That way you will be able to see it at the highest clarity. If you're watching it on a small screen, like a mobile phone or something, chances are whatever zoom level I use, sometimes it is easy to miss out, but try to take notes and, maybe relate it back to what you do in your day life. That's where it works. All good. Okay. So within Power Query, and this is a shortcut, this is something that's not part of the session at all. But if you see things in Power Query and you're thinking, oh, everything is super small here, how do I zoom? Because within Excel, I can hold my mouse button and then up and down it and it will increase the screen. So you can use Control plus button and Control minus to adjust the screen zoom. I'm gonna definitely zoom onto things when I do something important. All we have done so far is load the data. So if this is your first time here in Power Query, then this particular masterclass is going to be like an advanced session for you. Okay. There is a small saying in my native tongue, Telugu. I speak Telugu at home. There is a small saying in Telugu that goes like Annaprasan Rose Avkai Pachadi. What it simply means is there is a traditional ceremony in a baby's life where when the baby is growing up, after something like an year or maybe 12 months, 15 months, the baby is fed rice for the first time. Up until that point, the baby is on milk and liquid food, but rice is the first thing. So that ceremony is called Annaprasan, which means the first time the baby is having rice. And And if you feed the baby like plain rice on that day, that's good. Sweet rice is good. But if you feed him like an extremely spicy pickle or a chutney on that day, that's like overwhelming the baby, and the baby will start crying and going mad because it's too much for the baby to process. That's really what this is gonna be. If you have never used Power Query and you jumped here into this masterclass, what we are doing now is like way advanced. But I'll try to slow it down and explain some of the things. But if you find it too hard to follow because you've not done any Power Query work so far, then my recommendation is when you finish this, I've got some other videos of Power Query linked up in the video description. Do check them out for a little bit of background story on Power Query. But essentially, the way to think about Power Query is a data automation system built right into Excel. So using Power Query, I can tell Excel how I want my data, where my data is, and how it should be cleaned up or reshaped or managed. So think of a little bit like SQL, but for Excel. Okay, if you've done any SQL work. If you've not done that, then it is not relevant. Another good thing with Power Query is whatever we are doing within Power Query, everything, all these ideas are available within Power BI as well. So Power Query is like a common denominator between Excel and Power BI. If I learn a little bit of Power Query using Excel, I can take that and apply that to Power BI so that in Power BI also I can deal with this data set and have a cleaner data and do transformations and all of that. A more traditional name for Power Query is it's considered to be an ETL software, because it can extract the data from any system, transform it, and load it to my source system, which is Excel. All of these are technical mumbo jumbo. What it really means for us data analysts is using Power Query means I get to do less work. That's really what I care about. All right. Ahis asks, can you stream at 1080p? Sorry, brother. The maximum streaming resolution, the software that I'm using, LOC, is 720p. So if it is still blurry, then probably there is something else funny going on, because I've never had any issues with the 720p in all my live streams, and I've been doing this for over a year now. So if something is super blurry, anyway, we're not doing much, but if that is blurry, then I can't really help it. Chandra says, get data is not visible in Excel 365. It should be. If it is not visible, that's I don't think that is even an option. It is there. It's just it might be in a different part of the screen, or you've renamed, or somebody else changed something for your Excel. But yeah. Salim says, couldn't help see your local time. Thanks for your awesome dedication. Yeah, you understand. That's why I keep sipping my coffee, because it's still super early and, part of my brain is sleeping. But I enjoy doing live streams, and this time of the day means it's super quiet and there's no distractions, and I can just finish it off. All right. Okay, so we are within Power Query. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to hide my face off. That way the focus is on the screen. I'll come back and show my face. Don't worry, I'm still here. But I will hide my face off for now, so that the focus is on the screen. So this is Power Query. As I said, if you've never done any Power Query work, then it might be a little confusing with the task that we are going to do right now, but I'll try to explain at a brief level. So this is a query editor screen through which I can tell Power Query how I want my data to be cleaned. At any point in time, you can have multiple queries. So that's why this panel here lists all the queries. Right now, we only have one query. So this is the only one that is listed here, COF. But if you have multiple queries, then they will all come up here. And it does have your usual ribbon stuff on the top. It's all my ribbon. And, you can kind of read things and understand there's some important buttons here. Close and load means you finished your process. You want to now load up the data to Excel. And merge queries means I want to combine two different queries, like a join operation. Append means I want to combine data one after another, like stitching together and all of that. And within the query, this big box here, it kind of shows me how my data looks at that point in time. And you can apply different steps on the data. Whatever steps you apply, they will appear here in the applied steps. So right now we haven't really done anything. So all of this is really blank. All we did is loaded up the source file and then navigated, which is basically what the navigator screen was doing. So that's really where we are. And any name for your query, you can give it. You can change all of this. Whatever you do it here, it will only apply locally within this Excel file. It will not change the source file. The source file will be still as it is, but this one will have all these extra things added. So for example, I see that column 1 and 2 are null. There is nothing there. It's just null. So I can hold down my shift key, select both columns, and then right click, and then just say remove columns. As I said, what this will do is it's just going to remove those columns locally for me, but the original file remains as it is. So now there is a removed columns step added here, which simply says you've removed 2 columns. Likewise, you can see that the first row and second row are kind of, there's really nothing there. It says customer order form, please enter up to 15 days of order. And then third row is also null. So the real data begins from row number 4 onwards. So we could, for example, take away first 3 rows and we wouldn't really lose anything valuable because there's nothing interesting there. So I can use the remove rows button here and then just say remove top and then say number of rows is 3. So now boom, those rows are also gone. Essentially, we have added an extra step that says, I don't need those top 3 rows, get rid of that. Let's say all I want when I clean up this data is I want to know who the salesperson is and who the customer is. I don't care anything about the numbers and everything. So we only want rows 1 and 2. Everything else is irrelevant for us. So then I can just use the keep rows button, keep top rows. So earlier we used remove rows, now we are using keep rows. Top rows, just keep row numbers 1 and 2 because that's where my salesperson and customer information would be. At this point, again, we don't need anything. None of these other columns are required. Only the first 2 columns are what we need. So I can just use shift and select column 3 and 4, right click, remove other columns. That means keep these and get rid of everything else. So this is how basically we are transforming the data. We took a portion of data out of everything that is there. At this point, the data goes sideways, salesperson, customer. Ideally, I want the salesperson and customer as 2 columns. So we can go to the transform ribbon and from here, there is a transpose button. What it will do is it will flip the table sideways. So if I do it like that, then the data changes its orientation. So now we have bar Fonny here and board banner there. If I go back to earlier step, you will see that it is vertical. Now it is horizontal. At this time, we now know that column 1 should be called bar Fonny and column 2 should be called customer, salesperson and customer. So again, from home, we can use the use first row as headers option to kind of set the correct headers. There is a semicolon after that. I can just delete that. So this step is called renaming the columns. So we have renamed it. So we took a whole bunch of data, right? Big bunch of data. And then we kind of applied one step after another so that by the end of it all, we were able to kind of extract the 2 pieces of information. Okay. So imagine the order file is like a mountain of really shitty information. And we were able to go in, dug up there, and then find the 2 items of valuable information and then extract that out. Okay, this is just a sample case, but it kind of gives you a sense of what we are achieving. At this point, I'm happy with the way things are. So I can just say close and load, and this is gonna kind of flicker the screen a few times, and then it'll bring me the final data from that. There is only one row information here. It's obvious that there will only be one row because in each order there is only one customer and one salesperson, and they will come up here. Remember where it all started? It started from the COF001 file. So now I'll quickly go back here and open my file. This is the original source file, and I'm going to change a few things from here. So instead of bar Fawny, I'm going to type my name there, and instead of board Venner, we'll type I don't know, I'm blanking out here, K&W. Okay, so these two names, these don't exist anywhere else in the data, so it's easy for us to spot. I will save this file, close this. Now here, if I want to get the correct data, now that the file has changed, it's a really simple matter of right click, refresh, and boom, we get the updated data here. None of those steps need to be repeated again, because what we have done essentially is we have taught Excel how we want to do this process. So when the data changes, it will come back and give you the updated data. While it is all super beautiful and awesome, there are some downsides to this approach. The biggest thing that you need to remember is we worked with various assumptions to get here. So for example, if I go here and notice that, we removed the first 3 rows because they are all blank. But let's just say we get an order file where there is row number 3 is missing, like this. Okay, so I'll save this, refresh, and probably the file is closed. Yeah. Okay, so I already get an error. It's not telling me that there is an error, but that's really what is happening, because it was trying to do something, but that doesn't really happen. So I can, for example, go and edit and figure out what was going on. But because we worked under the assumption, like here there is an error, you can see that at each step there is data available. And at some point things would have, we'll just refresh the previews here. Yeah, so at each step data is available up until that point, and then my name is completely gone. We are only up to customer information. So Chandu salesperson is completely gone because that row is removed. So this is where because that assumption is broken, when I try to do subsequent steps, it's not able to properly transform the table, and then here it's giving me. So the real error is, if you remember the very last step that we did, after we promoted the headers, we saw, customer colon, salesperson colon. So we removed the colon, and the actual underlying programming code that Power Query was writing is this one. So it says, take the header that has a salesperson semicolon or colon or whatever that is, and then make it salesperson, customer, colon to customer. So it was trying to look for a column named salesperson, which is not even there because of the way data is now. So it's happening. So for example, if I don't bother with renaming, then my query would still work. If I delete that step using that X mark, it will still work. So at this point, my data looks like this. But if you want correct column name, so we rename it, then that's gonna break. So this is one of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're working with Power Query. Essentially, you're telling computer how you want, but computers are not smart. They just follow the instructions. So it all depends on how clear your instruction is. Power Query is super smart, but it is still dumb. So it has no sense of what could break. So you would have to, as an analyst, anticipate what would break and then build a repetitive process that works through that. You don't have to break your back and overthink all of this, but depends on your reality. So if your reality is that rows can disappear, then you will have to build a better process, or you just have to get on the phone and talk to the salesperson who's doing the order form, and then give him a make him understand, or give him a piece of your mind, so that they can stop deleting rows or anything. So just tell them, keep the template as it is. It'll make our life simple. So there's different ways to deal with this kind of a problem, but whatever may be happening, this is something that you need to keep in the back of your mind. Irrespective of what is going on, this is still way better and way faster and way smarter than manually doing any of this work. So this is why I really enjoy it. So now that we understood the process for one file and one part of the problem, we didn't even think about how to get the actual boxes and products and everything. So that we kind of understand where it is all going. So now that we see that, now let's take this and apply it for a big file, all set of files in one go. All right, before we do that, I'm just going to read through some questions to understand if there is anything else going on. I also want to quickly edit my stream settings, and I'm going to turn on the chat messages to only subscribers. This way, if you don't have to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to. That is still cool. But I don't, because when I take the questions, I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing subscribers. So I've put the subscriber mode on for now, I hope. Yeah. So if you have got questions, put them there. And if you're new to the stream and you watched so far, you enjoyed, you might even consider subscribing. So Chip asks, could if-then steps be used? Yes, you can add extra rules and logic and everything that says, if this, then do that. That is all possible. I don't think we have got any if-then conditions added in the coverage for this session, but I've got another video where I talk a little bit more about that. So definitely check that one out, and you will find that. Yuan asks, hello Chandu, how can I save a query in Power Query for future reports? So I'll show you when we get into Power Query. There is a place where you can view the query, and you can save that up in a text file or whatever for future reference if you want. So Ruwari says, is there a way to tell Power Query to look for a specific piece of data, like in the last example? I think that's what we have been doing. So I'm not really sure what other specific pieces of data you have in mind. Let me know, put another comment there, and then we will figure that out. Sean says, any reason why you didn't keep all the data, putting just salesperson, customer name in a new column? Yeah, that's really what we are going to do. But we didn't want to do that just for one file. We had to do this for all the files and then combine everything. So instead of tackling all the problems both times, the first time we just get only the name and customer name and salesperson name. The next time we are just going to do everything together. So you will see that. All right, there's some other questions related to, is Power Query same as VBA, which is better, and how they relate and all of that. I would say if you have been using VBA to do this kind of work, then it's a lot better and easier to do all of this with Power Query. Again, I'm not loyal to Power Query or anything. It doesn't pay my electricity bills or anything. It's just that this software is so much easier, friendlier, and I don't have to write any code to do this work. Whereas if I want to do this with VBA, this little piece of thing that we did, just getting the name of customer and and salesperson would also require writing, I don't know, 10, 20 lines of Visual Basic code. Whereas here we have not done anything. We only taught Excel how to do it, and it was doing most of the work for me. So this is super flexible, and the file formats can change and all of that. So with VBA, you would have to think about everything, whereas here I don't have to think about some of those practical things. Okay. Yeah, so Rivari comes back and then says, i.e. if the table changes, the top 3 rows lost. So that's really what we replicated here. What happens if I delete one row? How does it work? So yeah, that's, I think that part I already covered. Mark says, how do you copy a PQ query in an accounting period and change the fund source to use in totally separate query, but you want the data to return static and yeah, so I'm gonna talk about how do you kind of transform the queries that you're building, where to see the code and how to reuse that a little bit later once we get into Power Query. So hold on to that. And Vipin says, can we use Power Query Editor in Power BI too? Yes, you can. Whatever you are learning, you don't have to use it in Excel. You can use the same ideas in Power BI. So this is why I find learning Power Query is like the biggest bang for buck, because not only you're saving time, but you save time twice, once in Excel, once in Power BI. So why wouldn't you do that, right? Imagine you always wanted to visit France or Italy or one of the exotic countries for you. But the biggest holdback for you is the language. Like everybody there speaks a different language than you do. But now imagine what happens. Like you can go to Paris, you can go to Italy, live there. Everybody will speak the same language as you do at home. That's really what this is. You can use both tools and they both speak the same Power Query language. So it's super simple. Whatever you learn, literally no changes. It's exactly same screen, same steps. So you just do the same in Power BI. All right, so this is one file, but our job is not done. We have only getting warmed up now. We will do it for all the files in one go. So this is my original query. I want to do one little thing before we finish that, which is go back here and add that blank row again. And so kind of restore the sanity for our order form and refresh this so that the things come up here. And yeah, the column names are still having that extra character at the end. We'll just live with that for now. All right, so I'll go to a new worksheet, and then we don't even need to go there. And then from data, this time we want to do the same process, but for all the files, and not just get the name and customer, but their entire list of orders here, and then continue that process for all the files so that we have one giant table here. A quick reminder, again, this is my order forms. The folder has many order forms. So the COF001 is just the tip of iceberg. I have got different order forms. If I open a random form here, you will see that this guy here, their data is a little bit longer. So they had 14 days worth of information, whereas the order form 1 didn't have 14. I think it had only up to this. And they're ordering even more products than the original thing. And the name and order of these products is also different. So everything is messed up. This is where the big challenge is, and we need to kind of get it. So here we will say get data. Now, instead of a single file, we want to get the data from a folder. The process is like what happens to a file is similar, but now instead of saying get the data from a file, you're saying here is a bunch of files, get the data from everything together. So that's what the folder will do. So this option, if you're using a really old version of Excel, you may not see the folder option, but you can still technically do it. I would recommend probably an easier thing to upgrade your Excel or Power Query rather than try to arm twist it and get it done. The internal workings are same. I don't really know exactly when the folder operation started appearing. The folder thing is there in Power BI since very early versions, I believe. but probably Excel, I don't know. If someone can confirm in the chat window if you don't see it. So we'll say from folder and then go to my order forms folder and then open that. That's the folder where I want my data. And then this is gonna show you a listing of all the files that it found. The content column says binary, which means bytes and bits and bytes. Basically, that's what files and computers are. It says I found all of these files. It only shows like first 20 or 25 rows or something like that. What do you want to do? Do you want to combine? Do you want to load? Do you want to transform? You want to cancel? So combine is really what we want, but we just don't want to combine as it is because we know that our data is not correctly shaped. So we need to combine and transform. So that's the first step. Combine and transform. This is what we are really going for. You will see some similar options in load as well. Don't directly load, just say combine and transform data. And this is going to open up a further page if and when it comes up. So it will say, I want to combine files. So it now asks, what do you want to combine? So here we are now building that repetitive process. Essentially, you will tell Power Query that whatever you pick in one file, then it's going to go and pick the same data from all the files. So each file has this COF worksheet, and this is what I see. So do you want this data? That's what really it is asking. Here there is not much of a choice, so we'll just say yeah, cool, that's fine. This is what I want. So we'll click OK, and then this is again gonna flicker the screen a few times. Like a tube light, and eventually it'll come up here and boom, all your data is merged now. Time for me to hide my face so we can just see the data. There's a lot of garbage in this data. We still have to clean it up, but at least it is all there. So if I go here and Control Plus, you can see that this has basically taken up COF 001, 100, 106, like that. All the data is basically taken and put one underneath another. Imagine if somebody is basically stitching together the files. So file 1, file 2, file 3, like that. They were not really paying any attention. They're not doing any work on it. They're not changing the data. They're just attaching one after another. That's really what Power Query has done so far for us. This is fairly useless, but it is a great starting point. At least I don't have to deal with 100 different files of shitty data. I have to deal with one set of shitty data. So from here, it is easy for me to apply things or do stuff. Okay. Kalyan says, sir, my Excel is crashing if my data type is different when I automate using folder any solution. I'm not really sure why it would crash. It's a little tricky to kind of dissect the problem or figure out where things are going wrong from just one message alone. There could be any number of reasons why it would crash or things could break. Starting from simple things like insufficient memory, or you're running too many stuff, to more complicated things. You would probably want to, this is something that kind of universal. If you can get into Power Query and there is an error at the last step, is basically you just want to backtrack. So you keep going one step at a time until you find a step where things are not an error, and then the next step is an error. So once you locate that, that is where the problem is, and then you start to figure out why it is the problem. I hope that kind of gave you some idea. If you already know that and you're like, meh, this is not helping me, then I feel free to add more detail. But if it's not directly connected to the topic at hand, I won't be able to help you out. Wasif says, can the source data be changed every time? Yes, that's the whole point, right? You can have different source data. Like in my case, I want to change the bunch of files in a different month folder. So even though I'm showing the process for just one file, one folder, and the idea can be extended. It gets a little bit more technical, so I don't want to extend this masterclass for 3 hours and then show you how to do the multiple folder thing as well. But once you know that this is the process to do for one folder, then you just have to think, oh, what if I have 6 folders? Then it's very easy for you to get the answer for that question. So yeah, learn the technique and then go and apply it for multiple folders. There's probably YouTube videos or tutorials on the web that will give you the missing pieces of that puzzle. And Pooja says folder option is not available for Mac users. Well, what can I say? I'm even surprised that some of the things are available, because I only saw recently that they are adding Power Query support to Mac. So it could be a wee while before you start seeing folder support in Mac. The only thing that I can say is my sympathies are with you. That's all. And Chaya says, many thanks for sharing. Can Power Query deal with different headers? It can deal with different headers. You just have to know the technique. So everything is possible, but we will have to think. It's basically like you're playing chess with Power Query. Every step that you do, you have to anticipate what Power Query is going to do if that's not the case. So if I am if I am renaming a column from salesperson to sales officer, then I'm assuming inherently, even though we are not explicitly saying that there will be a column called salesperson, and then it should be renamed to sales officer. But what if there is no salesperson column? We have seen that earlier. So then you would have to play the chess 2 levels deep by starting with an assumption that you want to rename second column rather than salesperson column. So that's how you start thinking, what if it's not second, what if it's seventh? Then you will have to get even smarter. So everything is possible. It gives you a programming framework. This is something that I do for my live streams. You can see I've got my witty saying on the board here. Power Query is yummy. It's a little bit of wordplay there. But essentially the M language, M is the language name that Power Query uses. So M language is what Power Query uses to build the coding infrastructure behind. And you can go and write your own M language code if you become a little bit comfortable. I don't know much M. My M is fairly rustic, but I can get around with that. And Aman says something very lovely. No words can ever make justice how much you mean to me. Thanks for being such an excellent mentor for Excel. Thanks for everything, Chandu sir. Thank you so much, Aman. It really means a lot that you take some time and type this nice message out. All right. Yeah, there's some other questions. Feel free to keep them posting. I'll come back and address, especially if they're not on topic. Then I don't want to deviate too much. So I'm happy to have your questions there, and I'll come back to them as we make more progress. But for now, time to bring the hero into focus, which is this file. As I said, this is like somebody stitched together the files. It is barely useful. I can't really do anything meaningful with it, but it is a better problem than 100 individual problems, like one big problem. But now let's understand what really happened behind scenes, because that is where the clue is. So if I expand the queries, suddenly I see a whole bunch of queries instead of a single query. I thought, we just did a folder connection, so there should be only one query. But internally, Power Query will now organize a whole bunch of different things to facilitate the mechanism. So here you can see that there is a bunch of things here. Explaining this takes a little bit, if you're in the same room, then it's way easier to explain. But since we are all in different rooms in different parts of the world, I'm going to try my best. I think this is where my face will probably help. So you can kind of see my expressions as well. So here we got different folders. The key thing is there is a fx transform file. Okay. So what this is the function that Power Query will apply on each of the files in the folder. So your folder has 20 files or 40 files. On each file, it will apply a function. The function is called transform file. And transform sample file is the query on which that function is based. Okay. So one way to think about is within this guy here, okay, within this transform sample, I tell Power Query what I want to do on a single file. So once I finish doing that, then Power Query will build the function for me, transform sample function. It's an M language function. We don't need to know none of the technical stuff for this thing to work, but if I want to change it, then we need to know. So if you're happy with your setup now and you say, okay, my job is done, I don't need anything more, my data is combined, you don't even have to know what else is there. But because our data is still messed up, we need to know what is going on. So transform sample is the function and the sample file is my query based on which the function gets internally created. So if I, for example, change something in the sample file, add an extra step or do something on an individual file, then that function gets updated and all the files in the folder will have new function applied and newer data gets generated. So if I am not happy with the way my final data is, the place where I would start changing is in the sample query. Okay. So we will adjust the sample query until our final output is suitable for us. That's really what we are going to do. So we'll go to the sample. The sample is basically built off one file. So this way you're not overwhelmed. You're not looking at all the 100 data sets. You just look at one file and then tell Power Query what you want to do. This is what really we have done earlier in the session, right? We looked at one file. We built the process to get the bits of data from there. So here in this file, what we will do is the way our data is, it's kind of like a little bit messed up. So for now, you don't have to, if you're following along, you don't have to do this step, but I'm just gonna just do it for now so that we can open the file here. That way I can show you how our data is. Our data is technically not a single data, it's two data sets. So there's this data, salesperson and customer, which only appears once for the file. And then there is this table, giant table that could have some blank rows, blank columns, and lots of blank values, but this is where the numbers are. So it's basically two different data sets. So there is different ways to solve the problem, but the easier option here would be if I can build two functions, one to get this data and the other to get that data, and then apply both functions one on top of another on all the files, then we will have combined data. So that's one way of solving this problem. As I said, there is no one correct answer in these situations. It's technical implementation, right? So you could do differently and still get the same result, which is all fine. But if you're doing it over thousands of files, then performance and optimization comes into picture. So we'll go back and edit the queries. So once you come back to Excel to go back into Power Query, you can, if you have got the queries panel, you can right click on any query and edit. Alternatively, from data, you can enable the queries and connections. That will show this panel and then use the edit option. So we'll go back here and we now will build two functions. So even though there is only one function built for us so far, we will customize that function so that it works for one set of the data, and then we will add a new function. So then you will see the whole spectrum of things. So transform sample file, and this file in the already built one, we are going to extract this data, the product matrix data, and then reshape it. So to do that, we don't need the first two columns. So I'll just select these two, remove columns. And then we know that our product matrix grid always starts from row number 9. So anything before row number 9 is irrelevant. Again, here we are working under the assumption that the template will always be true and there is nothing changes in the template, like nobody adds blank rows or deletes blank rows. Otherwise, what we would have to do is we would have to scan the table for the first row where the product word is appearing and then delete up until that time. So you can again write logic to do that. But we'll keep things simple and light here, because even though Awesome Chocolates is managing messy data, it is an awesome company, so people follow rules. So I'll just say home, remove rows, remove top, 8 rows. Boom. So that's gone. Now what I have is a fairly reasonably clean grid of data. It is still messed up because there could be 15 columns, there could be 17, 12 columns, there could be 6 columns. So I don't want this format to be there as well. Instead, what I want is, if you're familiar with Excel, this kind of looks like a pivot table. I don't want it in a pivoted format, rows and columns. I want it in an unpivoted format, which will mean that I have product, date, boxes, 3 columns. That's really what I want. So at this step, my row number 1 is the header. So we will promote the first row as header using use first row as headers option. So that will move that thing up. Now that that is done, we want to keep the product column. Any other column, we want to unpivot that, because that's not really working out for us. So right click on product column and then just use unpivot other columns option. So this is a built-in feature within Power Query, a massively time-saving feature of Power Query. I use unpivot all the time. Well, not all the time. Most of the time I deal with clean data, but if and when I have this kind of data, I use unpivot. So unpivot other columns, and this is gonna just instantly reshape the data into a 3-column structure where product, attribute, and value. Attribute is my date, value is my number of boxes. The beauty of this 3-column structure is, irrespective of how many different days and different products a person is placing an order, so what that order form looks like for the individual files, all of them will still come back with the 3 columns. So it means I can still integrate all the data in a much more meaningful fashion, push it to Excel or Power BI, and then at the end of it, I can analyze it whatever way I want. Time for some water break. My throat is a little itchy. How? Okay. One important question in the chat: will this stream be available for viewing later? Unfortunately, this is the first time I'm doing it. This stream is not going to be available when we finish. I hope that was clear, but if not, I'm a little sorry for that. This is because when you go to the download files page, you would have already seen that there is a files download option. But I recently launched a mini Power Query course that goes into greater detail of what Power Query is, how to use it for many common data cleanup scenarios. So I'm kind of bundling this stream with that course as a kind of like a bundle offer, really. So if you want a recorded version of the stream, you can purchase it, but you're not really purchasing stream recording. That's really a bonus. You're purchasing the course. The course is for $40. So if you want, you can go in and get that. And on 4th of May, the Star Wars Day, I will send you the recorded version of this stream. So this is the first time I will be taking stream offline when we finish, because I am giving this as a bonus to all my Power Query course purchasers. You can think, oh, Chandu, you're holding us for a ransom here. I'm not trying to hold you or anything. All of this is free. You're watching it, you're learning. But if you want a recorded version of the stream as well as full access to the Power Query course, you can purchase it using that page. So that link is there in the video description. I'll put that there in the chat as well. I'll pin this for, I can't do that. Yeah, it's there in the chat. If you want, you can get it. Otherwise, you can just watch it and enjoy what we have. You don't have to purchase anything. Anyhow, we reshaped that, and it has a product, attribute, and value columns. Now, the only thing that I want to do is if there is a blank value anywhere, I don't even need that information. That's not relevant for any analysis. I don't want to know someone didn't place an order for a box of chocolates on that day. Only the values we want. So we'll go to the value, uncheck any blanks. So you're filtering out all the blank values. And this is my transform sample for a single file. So now that I have told Power Query how I want a single file to be processed, if I go to my order forms, I'll get that kind of a format for all the files in the folder. So COF001, 100 here, 226, I can keep scrolling, 243. So how awesome is that? Like, it took all the 40 files, all the individual mangled up tables, and combined everything into just one giant data set. Okay, so this is the power of that function, because with that little function itself, we have now been able to kind of go through all the 40 files and apply that same function, change it. If the files change or you add new files, when you run the refresh, it's going to automatically add this data as well or update the data. So all of that is really amazing and super awesome. And that is one part of the puzzle. As I said, this we are still not done, because here the challenge is we get this, but we don't know which customer it is or which salesperson it is, because that information was only available once per file on the top header area. So we still have to extract that and place it there. Then only we can do some meaningful work out of this. Carol says, hey, at the end of the stream, could you please provide the details about the 40 course? I would like to know in particular if you will help me solve the problem in my live data, if any. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not what you're purchasing. You're purchasing the course. If you have got any questions, you can always email me, and if I know the answer, I'll help. But I get way too much email than I can handle. And and if I can't answer, then I will also tell you, or sometimes I may not even get back to you. So if you have got like an important question and you're thinking, if I buy this, I'll get access to Chandu, that's not really what this is. The course is already built and people have already bought it. So it's, yeah. Ahmad says, just to reiterate, you load the files and then you go to transform file or transform sample file to get the giant table. So it's a little confusing. I agree, because that's the way the internal setup is. I wish they'll maybe rename these things. I'm just gonna zoom in here and then do a bit of sketch. So essentially what we have done is, this is my final query. This is what I want to see in Excel. This is the one that goes into Excel. Oh, my face is in the way. I'm just gonna, yeah. So this is the one that goes into Excel. The transformed file is the function, but you can't edit this function unless you know the M language. So to edit it, we really edit the sample file query. In the sample file, we make any changes needed, and then Power Query internally builds the transform file as a function itself. So we don't have to deal with the M language ourselves. We just do the screen bits, and then internally M language does its thing, and then it builds that. And once the whole process is done, it will automatically apply it on the order form. So you don't really have to do anything other than editing the sample file query to change the steps that happen on an individual file. Once you change that, then it will apply the same for all of them. Here in this particular live stream, we're going to go a little bit more advanced, because we need two functions, one for my order form matrix data and another for getting my salesperson name and customer name. So I'm going to show you how to build the custom function as well, using copy paste, and like we'll do minimal work, because the whole point of this is we want to avoid any boring tasks. So I'm not going to show you how to code M language, because that I find it extremely boring. Instead, I want to capitalize on what Power Query can do for us as much as possible. So yeah, it is a little confusing. It will take a while, but if you build it 3 or 4 times, then eventually everything clicks in your mind. And as I said, this is a masterclass at an advanced level. So if you're completely new to Power Query, this session is going to be a little overwhelming. So I've got another detailed Power Query video on the channel. Feel free to watch that. It is like the live stream, 80 minutes long, but there is no interruptions, no questions. Everything is already pre-recorded and properly edited. So do watch that if you want. All right. So there's some other questions there, but I'll come back to those questions. I keep zooming my this window. I don't know what I'm thinking. All right. So this is the thing. We built one function, it works, but now we need to add the second function. So you can see the steps that are happening and how that functions really work. We will create the function first, and then we will kind of figure out how to do it. So to create the function, all you want to do is we want to use the transform sample file as the basis, and then kind of work backwards. So right click on transform sample file, and then we will duplicate this using the duplicate option. You don't want to reference, you want to duplicate. This way, because it has got all the inner workings of a function, except that it's not a function, we can kind of take advantage of that. So duplicate this. It'll create a duplicate query, call it sample file 2, and then I'm gonna rename this as get headers. You can rename it whatever you want. We'll just say get headers, and then we'll put the word sample at the end, because this is not the function. This is actually the sample file where I'm telling you how to build the function, and the function will be built by Power Query. So get headers sample is the thing. And then in this, I'm just gonna undo all my steps. So I want to remove those blank call. We'll start all the way here. So I'll right click on the third step and then say delete until end. So all the steps are gone. And this is how the original data looked, if you remember. And now all we want is this bit. So out of this mass of data, we just want that information to be extracted. Everything else we don't care. We've already done this once, so you kind of know the process. First 2 columns are gone. And then remove rows, remove top 3 rows. They're gone. And then keep rows, keep top 2 rows. So you take away 3 and then you keep 2, and then just everything else is gone. So quickly we get rid of all the useless stuff. First 2 columns I'll select, and then I'll just say remove other columns. So everything is gone now. At this point, transform and then transpose the table. So flip it like this. So it becomes salesperson and customer, and then home, use first row as headers. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not bothering with removing that extra character in the end. So this function, what it will do is it'll go to the file, it'll remove the extra blank columns, top 3 rows, keep the second 2 rows, flip them, move it up, and then create a smaller table. So that's what it is doing. But we haven't built the function, we only built the sample thing here. Once it is all done, because it is coming from transform sample, it has one special characteristic. This is really important for a function. If you have done any programming, you will probably know what a function is. A function will do a certain activity and then give some output. So usually all of these rules can be broken. It's a very generic way of looking at functions, but let's look at some practical ways. Like if you have a sum function, what is sum doing? It takes some values as input, it adds them up, and then it gives you output. So a function would have both input and output. That's really what a function would be. At a very like a generic level, a function need not have any inputs or any outputs as well. But we're not talking about pure abstraction, just more practical way. A function would have some inputs and output. So here is a function called transform file, this function, what it does is it takes a file as input and then it gives the matrix data transformed unpivoted for us. That's what that function is doing. So if I want to build another function, then I need to know what the inputs are and what the outputs are. We already know the output part. This is my output. Right? This is how my output would be. We need to know now where the input is. Because we have already copied the transform sample file, the input mechanism is already built into it. We don't realize it, but it is already built. So if I go all the way to the source step here on this new thing, okay, you'll see this formula bar. If you don't have formula bar, you can easily enable it, view ribbon, and then enable the formula bar. That will show you the underlying M language code. Here it is saying get the Excel workbook from parameter 1. So it's not pointing to any physical location on my computer. It's saying I got an Excel file in the parameter 1, just use it. So it does have that input parameter already built in. This is all something that internally Power Query did for ourselves. Whereas if you are building your own Power Query functions, then you will have to think about the parameter. But Power Query did all of that, so we don't need to worry about it. So once a query has any parameters used in it, so here my get headers sample, this query has got a parameter. The parameter is my sample file, by the way, that's already there. I can right click on the query and then I can create a function from it. So you can see that there is a create function option available. That's really what you need to do. Because it already has a parameter, you just say create a function and it takes the parameter as input and gives you this output. So we'll create the function. You can give it a name. So we'll call this as get headers. That's the function name. And click OK. So now you get a new function called fx get headers. And you can invoke this with a parameter. You don't normally invoke functions like this. You just invoke them in the context of a whole bunch of files. So we go to order forms. And this is where things get a little bit more advanced. So hopefully people are still staying and you're all awake or not taking a nap or something. But if you get confused, you can always watch the recording if you do end up purchasing that, or you can always read up. Once you know that, then it kind of becomes easy. So all right. Somehow I came to a place where I've extremely zoomed out and I don't. Okay. Yeah. So this is my original final query and it has already applied that function. The matrix expansion function has been applied. What we want to do is we now want to apply the that get headers function as well. So this is where you need to think the order in which this function should be applied, because the header is only once per file, whereas the matrix has multiple rows per file. A good practice would be to first get the header and then get the matrix. That way you're not really overdoing the functions. For example, if I run my get header function now, this table has more than 1000 rows because each file has hundreds of different individual orders. So the files are expanded now. If I run it now, this is gonna run the same header function for 1000 times. Whereas if I run it earlier, then it would only run 20 times. So that would be more optimized way of doing it. So we will have to kind of backtrack our steps. So for example, source will show me all the binaries and it automatically adds the hidden files removal thing. And then at this point, it invoked the custom function 1, which kind of expanded things. So this is the custom function 1. And if it is still now at a table level, right? And then the expansion happened here. if you are completely new to Power Query, whatever I'm saying now is obviously going to sound like gibberish. But essentially, at this stage, we are still looking at 41 files. We don't have any more rows in this table. 41 rows is what we have. So if I do the get headers thing now, that is still cool because it's only going to run 41 times. So at this place, I want to add a step. So I'll go to add column. And then here is my invoke custom function button. We will invoke the function through this. So I'll click on that. Because you're inserting a step, it will give you a warning. This is fine. We will insert it. We know what we are doing. And then the column name, it says custom. I'll just say headers for now. And the function is get headers. And it needs to run on the content. That's the parameter. Because it runs on the binary or the underlying bytes of the file. So the process, I'll repeat this again. You want to select invoke custom function and then invoke the custom function from the add column. Insert and name this. Name is optional and it's not even relevant because we are going to change the names later on. And then select the query, which is get headers. You can see that there is also transform file. We have already applied that. So we'll just say get headers on the content and click OK. And it's going to give you the header file as well. All right, so now if I want, I can actually kind of sneak peek and see what is there. If I click on this table, oh, I don't want to click. If I just select this, I can see that the first table's headers are Chandu and KNW. This is because I changed it at the start of the stream. And first table's matrix is like this. So I can kind of, second table is Dennison and Lennon Incorporation, like that. So at this point, I can expand the headers because the header output is always just one row. It's not going to expand and blow out. It's just going to add those two columns. So we'll use this sideways cross button. In fact, it may be a lot easier if I just delete all these other steps and then we will redo them. So we'll delete these extra steps. So we only have two functions. And in fact, that's probably what we should have done early on. Anyhow, and now we'll just expand this. And then say salesperson and customer. No need to use any prefixes. So I'll get for each file who is the person and who is the customer. And now this is my actual data. I want to expand that, but I don't need all of these other things. There is a lot of columns that we don't need. So I'm gonna quickly hold down Control and multi-select all of these other columns that are kind of irrelevant for our work here, and then remove these columns. So we have only the file name, which has the order number, and then salesperson and customer, and then the transform file has my big table, the matrix expanded. And we will expand this as well. It has product, attribute, and value columns, and OK. So there you go. This is having a much cleaner data of file name, what product, what was the date, how much is the boxes, who is the salesperson, and who is the customer. And this goes on for all the files, all the orders, everything in the folder. The only missing bit is the column names, attribute, and value are not correct. So I'm just going to double click on this and then just say this is the date, and that's the boxes. We could have done this step of renaming the columns in the transform sample file itself. So if I rename here, then that would have appeared automatically for all the files as well. But you can also add steps in the combined query too. It doesn't really matter. And if you want, you can apply some data type conversion. So for example, date needs to be a date. I'm not bothering with that. Instead, what I really want is I want to see the fruits of our labor. So we are gonna go to home, close and load. Now, ideally, if you click on close and load, it would load the data. But because I had to, in between the session, I had to close Power Query and come back and open the other Excel file. I didn't load anything. So now nothing is loaded. So I can go to my order forms, connection only, right click on that, and then change the load behavior. So it says load to, and then load it as a table in the new worksheet. So this is gonna load up all the data, and it'll give me all the 2766 rows of data. Everything is combined in one go. I mean, it took us a good 90 minutes to get here. That's because I'm teaching you. The first time I built this, it took me under 15 minutes because I know where I'm going and what I need to do. So imagine the power that it has given you, right? You could have 40 files, you could have 400 files, you could have multiple files coming to you in email every week. Your workload is not going to change. You build this once and it's going to just work like magic every time things come to you. Of course, things will go and fail because if some formatting changes or some shape of the data changes, that's going to add some extra work to you. But assuming everybody follows the template, there is no more work for you if you automate like this. So this is where really the Power Query shines. I hope that has kind of given you a solid glimpse of the true power and potential of Power Query and how to use the functions and everything. I know the last part where I copied the function, it felt a bit rushed, but that's not intentional. That's really what it is. Right? There is no easier way to explain these things. Either you learn them over a period of time, or you somehow randomly bump into them. So if you think, oh, the last bit seems a bit confusing, Chandu, how did you do or what did you do? It's fine. Don't beat yourself up. For the first few times I built functions in Power Query, I didn't even know what I was doing. I just think, okay, I'll have to read these instructions on Google, just do them. And then after a few times, I kind of slowly understood things, and hopefully I demystified some things for you, if not all. Let me know in the comments, what you're thinking. So that is that. I hope you really enjoyed the core content part of it. Like I said, this is the first time and probably only time for a while where I'm not gonna keep the stream available once we finish. It'll be available for some time, like maybe half a day or so. People who have watched, if you want to come back and watch it again, that's fine. But eventually it's gonna go offline later today. And you can purchase a recorded version of the stream as well as my full Power Query course using the link that is in the video description. If you are doing this kind of work and you're thinking, man, I need to do it in a better and automated way, I highly recommend learning Power Query. You don't have to buy my course. I don't care how you do it, but learn Power Query because it's going to change the way you do your work and it's going to massively improve your overall process. But if you want a guide to handhold you and teach you how to do Power Query, this course is a solid start. I've had it out for about maybe 10-12 days, not longer than that. I think I launched it on 20th of April, and so far the feedback has been positive. If only the only negative feedback I got was this, that it is so good, can we get more examples? That was the feedback that I'm getting. So people want more of it. You can imagine how, when you go to an ice cream shop and you eat an ice cream and the review says the ice cream was so good, I wish there was an extra scoop. That's what I feel like. So, and I can see that some of the people who attended that did leave some testimonials here. I didn't ask them. Shub says, I joined Power Query course and completed it also, and the platform is Skillshare. I must say it is one of the best, and I have already started using in my day-to-day activities. So there you go. Yeah, feel free to grab it. You can purchase it here, or there is another page that is also linked in the video description that takes you to the Skillshare. If you have got Skillshare membership, then Skillshare is like Netflix for learning. There's hundreds of courses. I run multiple courses there. That way you don't pay anything like one time. Instead, you pay Skillshare a monthly subscription, but you get access hundreds of courses, including my own courses. So if you join the course on Skillshare, you will also get a recording of stream there as well. So it doesn't matter which way you go. If you want, you can purchase it here, or you can go to the Skillshare and get it there. I want to also thank Victor for a super chat. Thank you, Victor. It's lovely to have you, and thanks for the super chat. All right. So the main show is over. I'll be here if you have got questions or you want me to talk a little bit about any specific things that we have done. Feel free to ask me. If your question is, can you please repeat the whole thing? Then unfortunately the answer is no. But if you have got questions, let me know, and I will be around for some time, and I'm happy to answer those. Mandarani says, I want some discount as a student. So I understand that anytime you sell anything, not everyone can afford it. And that is totally fine. Like when I'm a student, buying anything is like the last of my things on my mind. I'm thinking about other things. So if you are a student and you want to learn, I don't have any discounts on this particular course because it's a mini course. It's literally just focusing on Power Query. That's all. But I have got a full length program called Excel School. It's a little longer. The mini course is like 80 minutes. Excel School is 24 hours of video material. And it does cover Power Query as well. So whatever you learn in the mini school course of Power Query, I do cover that kind of different variations and parts of it in the Excel School anyway. So you can go for Excel School, and Excel School, if you are a full-time student, I give 25% discount. So just email me and then say that, hey, I'm a student. How do I get student discount on Excel School? I'll send you the details, and you can go from there. So that's the option. I know I'm asking you to spend more money, but yeah, that's really what it is. So I don't know. But you don't even have to spend anything. I got tons of videos on YouTube and other places. My mission is to make people awesome. So I don't really want money to be a thing. That's why the whole philosophy for me has always been like, I'm not trying to say this because we are on a live stream or anything. I've said this all the time, is 90% of everything that I create, videos, articles, everything is free. 90%. I only charge for the other 10% because I have a life to live. I've got a family, kids, and dog, and house, and all the other things. None of this is free, right? So I have to pay for stuff. So this is where the other 10% I charge. But literally 90% of the content that I create, most days of the week, if you look at my planner, the activities I'm doing, there's nothing paid here. All these, like, make a video, edit, and everything is for my mission, which is to help people become awesome. So that's really how I think. I'm very happy with the money I have, so I'm not really asking everybody go out of the way and purchase things. But yeah, if you're a student, you can't afford, then look of various ways that you can see. All right, Leandro says, really cool class. Thank you. You should do another one on Power Automate and the archiving of files. It's incredible how there is almost no content. That is really awesome suggestion. In fact, a curious side note is I have been playing with Power Automate quite a bit in my free time. Not free time, but my own learning time, because I'm trying to understand how Power Automate could be another cog in this machinery of data analysis. And I did build some practical solutions with Power Automate. So I'm kind of still learning the platform, but eventually, very soon, not like end of the year, but probably in the next 2-3 months, I'll have a couple of videos on Power Automate on the channel. Doing a live stream means it's like walking on the fire while you're blindfolded and you're holding like 7 cups of coffee in your hand. So it feels like things can go wrong at any time. So I have to anticipate and think. So that's why I'll probably do a live stream on Power Automate once I feel more comfortable. But I'll start off with making some videos first, and then eventually I'll get to doing a live stream on Power Automate. There is a little more mystery on the Power Automate side than others. Luis MPP says, is there any limit on Power Query for how many files it can handle? I mean, there is obviously limits. Like if I have 5,000 files in the folder and I try to run this process, then it's gonna take a lot longer, and screen freezes could happen and all of that. I have had that happen multiple times. So there is a limitation in terms of like your memory and processing powers and all of that. That is one side of it. But yeah, if you are building like a very large process within Power Query, you do not want to do that locally on your computer. You probably want to run it in a more server-like environment or on a Power BI dataset building process or something like that. Normally for our Excel data analysis, what we are doing tends to be more like what I have demoed, 50 files, 100 files, like that. If I have 5,000 order files, we wouldn't really be doing this sort of a job to get the data into Excel. You really want to load it up into a database, because what's the purpose of doing all of this if only things can break again, right? You just want to load it. So then your thinking and your process, everything runs in a different way. All right, there's another thing. This is this is not related to the topic of the day, but I thought, since people are still watching, I'll mention it out before we get out. If you watched all this and you enjoyed it, make sure that you leave a like and share the. No, I don't think you can share the stream because it's going to go offline. But please like the video. This way, I can kind of get a sense of who is enjoying it, and then it gives me good feedback. But yeah. That's cool. I'm gonna read a few more questions. Jayasri says, can we apply filter on a single page in a report and we close that report, come back next day, still that filter should affect? Can you please help me solve this? Oh, you're probably talking about Power BI here. I don't know if there is like some sort of mechanism to preserve that. I would probably use a bookmark in your case, Jayasri, and then just use that bookmark. I don't think there is any default bookmark option as it. I could be wrong, but yeah, if that feature is not there, one thing that you could do as a user of Power BI is you can go to their monthly blog posts that they do, and then leave a feedback saying, hey, can we have this, or what's the status of this? Because they're pretty attentive, they listen to customer feedback, and then if they see that, oh, this is something that multiple people can use, then they will reply. Alternatively, there could already be a feature. I don't know much about the platform side of things, so yeah. Shantanu says, would you recommend learning M language, or do you think we can get by using the graphical interface? I would say stay away from M language until you just have to do it. Like, I am a trainer. I do Power Query because I have to teach people how to do Power Query. So I know M language, but I feel like M language is a little too complicated, especially if you are well versed in traditional programming languages. So M language is not like your run-of-the-mill programming languages. You don't find much there. In fact, that reminds us, because there was a question about how do I see the query. So I'll show you how the M language even looks like. That will give you a better sense of how this is all. So I'm gonna go here, edit the query, and then to see the actual underlying code of this thing that we built, you can go to the view ribbon, and then there is the advanced editor. Click on that, and that will show you the code for your thing. Okay, so this is the code. Literally each step is one line. We started off with a source that is linked to that folder. So if my folder path changes, I can kind of, for example, come here and put 2023 and done, and that'll update. I don't want to do it because there's no 2023 folder yet. And then it is adding all of these steps. So you can see that, and you can kind of, it doesn't look like plain English, but it is a roundabout way of thinking in programming. So each step usually refers to the previous step and then it acts on it. So that's how Power Query language is built. The steps always have a step name and then the output value, and the outputs values are usually Power Query functions itself. So this is a very, very simple code in itself. But here you can see that invoked custom function is using the function transform file. So if I, for example, cancel, discard this, and then go to my transform file and then see the advanced editor, it doesn't want to show me the editor because the moment you get into the editor, it's going to break the linkage, but I'm just going to do it anyway for the, and then here you can see this is how the function is coded. Internally, it has multiple lets and ins and stuff like that. I find that for the sake of your sanity, stay away from M language until you really have to learn it. Instead, what you can, I mean, there is a little bit of M language that you can learn without even doing any of the work, which is where the formula bar comes into picture. If you enable the formula bar, every time you do a step, you can see the underlying M language code here. So this is like a passive way of learning M language. You don't really learn, but you're watching the conversation. So imagine you're trying to learn a foreign language. So watching foreign language movies with the English subtitles on, assuming you know how to speak English or read English. So you're not really picking up the language much, but every time, let's just say in the foreign language, they say or something like that. And then the subtitle always says hello. After 7 times of reading the subtitle and that sound, that Pavlovian effect kicks in, and then the next time that sound comes up, your mind automatically sees the word hello there. So that's really what this is. By having the formula bar on, you can kind of pick up some subtle clues about the language. This is really what I do. I ask all my students to have the formula bar enabled. It's a one-time step. You do that and it stays on in all your Excel files. And the other beautiful thing with this is, if I need to change something quickly, I don't have to go and edit the steps. I can kind of immediately, for example, if my folder path changes, I can go to the step and then add new there and then tick mark, and then the step applies immediately. Again, I don't need to, so I don't want to do that. Arma says, thanks a lot, Chandu. We'll catch up. Good night from Melbourne. Good night. I hope you must have left already, but yeah, good night. Rajiv says, is there a way to connect ERPs like SAP or planning tools, etc., that's controlled by IT department? You can. It does have many different features. So, for example, if I go to data, get data, you can see that there's some databases built in, and I can use an ODBC or so here get data, ODBC and OLEDB are available. So I can use that to connect to any sources, assuming that such an option is there. In some of the client engagements that I have done, I was able to build Power Queries that connect to the SQL Server datasets and build the data for our analysis and reporting purposes within Excel like that by custom generating the SQL query using parameters and whatnot. So it's all possible. It just requires a little bit of more work and probably a little bit of either cooperation or arm twisting your IT department, because sometimes I find that some of their policies and rules are a little bit meaningless, for the lack of better word. Probably they're worried about security or whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you can't do anything, then that's also a problem, right? So, all right, let's just see. This is something that people are quite asking. I don't know. I see this particular topic suggestion in the comments quite often. Roadmap for data analytics. Is this something that you would be interested in? Let me know in the chat if you think that is something that you would enjoy. I could make a roadmap. I see that there's multiple roadmap videos on YouTube. So a part of me feels like, yeah, it's all been said there. I don't want to say the same things again and again. But I do say same things again and again on my channel. So I can talk a little bit about that in a future video. All right. Hari Krishna says, thank you, Chandu, for doing this great learning session and really appreciate your efforts for the same. You're welcome, Hari Krishna. Thank you. Colleen says, will you explain how you would eliminate any duplicate rows? Sure. I don't want to do the duplicate elimination in this data set because everything is a duplicate. But let's just say you want to delete some duplicate, like the files are duplicated or whatever. It's not even possible because the file names have to be different anyway. But if I just go edit, let's say you want to delete some duplicates, like if the box number is exactly same, then I don't want to fulfill that order or whatever. I can right click, remove duplicates. That's going to remove all the duplicate box numbers. If I want to do it in a combination, like if the box number, salesperson and customer combination, there is a duplicate, then I don't want it. You can either shift and select, or you can hold control and select like that, whatever combination. So we'll select these three and then right click and then just say remove duplicates. That will remove all the duplicate combinations. I'm not doing that step because that's not really the purpose here, but you can do it. How can we round off multiple sheets in Excel in millions, billions, and then again switching back to normal? I don't know. I don't think that's even related to Power Query. Yeah, Excel doesn't really have like an automatic billion million conversion button. You could probably use a little bit of VBA or something to kind of do it. I wouldn't really know exactly what you're doing and why you want to do it in all the sheets in one go. It can create some data problems further down for you. Let's just see. Victor says, more on Leonardo's request. Have you been toying with Power Automate Desktop or Cloud? Been using both. It's amazing. With your knowledge, I'm pretty sure you can open many doors. Can't wait. So I've been using the desktop one. The online one, I did use it like many years ago when I was doing a meetup in Sydney. And I don't know how many of you are still here from Australia, because it's probably like 3 a.m. in Australia now, parts of Australia. So you're already in bed. But those of you who have had the fortune of traveling to Sydney, Sydney used to have, I don't think with COVID they're doing that now, but they used to have like this festival of lights. I don't know exactly what it's called, but something festival of lights. So once I was in Sydney around that time when the festival of lights is on, and this is when all of the Sydney, there'll be like lots of light art. So they'll flash lights on the Opera House, they'll have lights on the Harbour Bridge, and they'll have light installations and visual, like lots of sparkling lights and different light sculptures and everything all over the city. So when I was there, I was there for some other work, but that was going on. So, and I did a meetup event, and for fun, I wanted to set up a flow, because that meetup was about introducing flow to these people. So set up a flow which will look into Twitter and then automatically scrap any images of the light festival that people share on Twitter. So a specific hashtag, I was searching on Twitter, and if you posted an image on Twitter with that hashtag, then I would get it, and then we will kind of live stream those into the flow and then put that into the screen when the session was going on. It was quite fun until things went bizarre. This is because it's all live, right? I was just tapping into Twitter, get the hashtag and get the pictures, and then directly put them on the projector screen while I was explaining the flow. Everything was good until some of the NSFW images started coming up. And then we had to immediately pause the presentation, turn off the flow, and it was fun. But yeah, I used that a long time ago. It used to be called Flow back then they renamed it to Power Automate. So, but right now I'm trying that with the desktop. Yeah. Anyhow. Dhruv says, I think he said multiple messages. I'm not really sure if your keyboard is stuck, Dhruv. Please don't post multiple messages. Chandu, please tell me the overview of Power BI server, paginated reports. Please create it and DAX playlist depth 1. Yeah, you're asking too many questions. I do have many Power BI videos, but I don't have anything on paginated reports or server side yet. I'll have some, but if you want to learn those things, you don't have to wait for me to create those. There's multiple videos from other providers. I'd probably recommend checking out videos on Guy in a Cube channel. They do have some of those videos. So check them out, learn from them. Don't wait for me to make the playlist, because for me to make a video and put it out there and eventually build a playlist, it's going to take 6 months, 1 year, and you seem to be in a hurry. So you may want to just learn from there. Ooh, Eric comes in. Eric Alink greets you. Thanks, Chandu, for getting up so early to teach this. I'm behind in time in the Netherlands, and I'm going to prepare my Friday evening meal. Good to have you here, Eric. Yeah, Eric is one of our regulars in the live stream, so it's always good to hear from you. And enjoy your evening dinner. Sridhar says, I work on Google Sheets and have to do some automations to simplify my work. Would you think learning app scripts help is any other way? I think Google Sheets has its own scripting thing. So yeah, probably learn it. There's a technology blogger called Gaurav Agarwal. He used to run a website called Labnol or Digital Inspiration. So probably check his website. He does have some app script examples and tools built in Google Sheets. I have not done much Google Sheets work beyond the bare minimum, so I don't really know anything about that. All right. Ahmad says, you have good take on analytics. Interested to know your take on improving skills using R and breaking into VBA. Need to develop context, Excel export, then using particular formats to PowerPoint. Possible. It's all possible. I'd probably start searching up one of the things at a time. Yeah, there's some examples on my website that talk about how to make PowerPoint presentations from VBA using Excel and all of that. So, but I would probably start with a little bit of VBA crash course first and then go from there. I do also run a VBA course. So if you want, you can join that, or, you can just self-learn these things. Marco says, I have this formula, date time local now, and then 1 else 0, but I want to return last date only, not today. So you want to filter the data that belongs to yesterday? Is that what you're trying to do? You could do it in a different way. There's multiple ways to solve problems within Power Query, and this is one of the best things, but also one of the frustrating things for new learners. So you can go to the date. It needs to be in a date data type. Right now this is text, so I'm going to turn this into change type date. And now that this is date, I can go date filter, and I can just say in the previous 1 days, which is basically yesterday, a roundabout way of saying that. And this is a relative date filter. So what it means is tomorrow the filters, when you refresh again, is going to change. And when you apply this, we'll test this out. I'm going to delete this step anyway. You can see the relevant M language code here, and you can either reuse that in your function or whatever. Right now this table is empty because there's nothing coming up. All the orders that we have are for May, so we don't have any past April data here. So I'll delete that step. All right. Azaz says, thank you so much for doing this. We would love to see your version of roadmap for data analytics with prerequisites and the unique touch you give to all your videos. Thank you so much. That's really good to hear, Azaz. And I might actually do a bit of research and come up with some a video or two on the data analytics roadmap then. Triambak says, for balance sheet, we prepare from trial balance. New regulations in India require us to round off to nearest 100 lakhs or millions. So I wanted to know how I can change the figures. You probably can do it a lot easily by just adding a formula. So you have your original balance and then you can add two more columns, one in lakhs, one in millions. That's how I would do it. To be honest, I would probably avoid using Excel for making my balance sheets or making ledgers and stuff like that. But I can understand, if that's what you have to do, because there's specialized software that can do all of this with one click. So, but if you're running your systems in Excel, then I would simply add a column or make a different output worksheet that has my report in lakhs or millions, and then just do it there. Dhananjay says, Chandu, you're an awesome trainer and you have a very good sense of humor. Thanks, Dhananjay. I really enjoy training. This is really my passion. You can see why I wake up at 4 a.m. or in fact, I woke up at 3:30. So yeah, this is what I enjoy. I get a good sense, and I feel very good after doing this. So yeah, thank you so much. Rajiv says, heartiest congratulations on 200k subscribers. I feel it should be easily 1 million plus. Thank you so much. That thought itself is so much. I just can't believe myself that we are at 200k now, because it has been like less than 1 year since we got to 100k. So yeah, it's just unbelievable, and with the amount of new people that are coming and learning. But I'm even more proud and very happy with the way people are learning and prospering through all of these new way of learning things. So more power to you. All right, Brian says, my Power Query editor keeps adding steps such as promoting headers and changing data types automatically. There must be a setting to turn this feature off. Can you point me to it? I will point it to you. But first I should point to a tweet that I did a while ago, because I hate this step so much, right? So I'm just going to search that up first on this other screen, and then I'll come back to you in a minute. Sorry, just give me a second. Because this is too funny, right? So if you are already watching this stream for like 2 hours, I'm pretty sure you can wait a few seconds. Where is this? Yeah, okay. So here is me on. Okay, I'll expand this. So this is a meme that I put up a while ago. Me after cleaning data with Power Query. Power Query, I will data type change for you. So that's really what I felt like at some point, because I didn't know there was a feature to turn this off. So every time I do something in Power Query, I feel super proud about myself. And then next time I refresh, Power Query would have added a data type change step in the middle without me telling it. And that would have ruined the whole thing for me. I'm like, what the heck is this? So this is where there is a setting, fortunately, that you can add. It's a bit dodgy, so I don't remember exactly how I did this. So I'm just gonna test this one out. So help me. So we go to File, Options and Settings, Query Options. I think this is available both in Power BI as well as Excel. And so there's some global settings and current workbook. So we'll just go to the global data load, or data load. So here is the most beautiful and important thing that you can do: type detection. So you can see what I have set this to. So you want to go to the file, query options, data load at the global level. Type detection: never auto detect column types and headers for unstructured sources. That's it. It does say unstructured. So what it means is, if you hook up to a database, especially like SQL Server analysis services or something, those data already has a data type built into the data model. So when you bring the file, connection, you are bringing the data, and the server itself tells you this column is date, this is primary key, and whatnot. So then Power Query will oblige that. It's gonna apply those same steps to keep things simple. I think the default is either this or one of these, and I find them to be super annoying. So I have set this to this, and you can do this in both Power BI and Excel. There's a one-time thing, you do it, and then no more dogs biting your privates kind of a scenario. All right, Sandeep says, I have an issue. Column headers are GST number, tax rates, and company name, and I want to see the total of different taxes against a unique GST. How do I do it? You could probably do that with a pivot table. I'm not really sure why you want to do such a thing in Power Query, because that can be a little bit clumsy. But if you want, you can also use the transform group by feature to generate a group data set. I normally just do it in pivot table in Excel. That way there's a Cherian says, question to Chandu: using Power Query, fast and easy way to calculate number of working days between 2 days. Any inbuilt function in DAX like Excel has network days? So I feel like there is nothing available. I could be wrong, because this is simply because there is so much that they add to these things on a regular basis. So sometimes like what would be a few months old. So I'll probably, let's test here. Otherwise we'll go into DAX. I don't want to do a DAX demo, but I'll try to answer. So you can add a custom column. This is a little kind of like a secret. Ooh, that is stupid. Like when I zoom, it's zooming that bit, but it's going out of screen. So anyway, custom column. And here in the custom column, what we're going to do is, I'm going to type, so there's nothing called work. The cheat is you can start typing things to see what M functions are available. Network. Okay. So there's nothing like that. I'm going to say date. And then, yeah. So you'd probably have to build this logic yourself. This is where I think, for example, Awesome Chocolates doesn't operate on weekends. So we don't even have any weekend dates here to begin with. But I can, using the date column, I can add a column of day of week. And this will give me what the day of week is. And from here, I can filter anything greater than 5 or do something or whatever. If you search up online, you might find an M function that somebody would have developed to calculate the work days. So let's just see if there is anything in DAX. One quick way to do this is you can go to DAX guide, dax.guide, the website. And then we'll just not A to Z. We'll go to group, functions, date, time, and then so there's no workday here, isn't it? We'll just see if there is anything in time intelligence. Yeah. So this seems like a gap. Probably I'll make a video explaining how to do this then. This sounds like a very good, interesting challenge to tackle. Let me know if you want to see such a video. Put a chat message there, and then I'll. All right. There's more questions here, but I think we've gone on for 2 hours, and my throat is already itching because I've been talking for quite a while. So I'll just see if there's a. Isaz says, please write a book on automate the boring stuff with Excel. I would probably try to automate the book writing process as well. I am super lazy, and book writing is like a painfully long process. I've written 3 books, and at the end of each book, I tell myself, this is it. I'm not writing anything more. I give up. So I don't know. I don't think I want to spend my energy writing books. I'm happy making videos and doing this kind of thing. This is what I really thrive on. Maybe in future, you never know. Joshua says, is there a way to speed up the loading of connections? I experienced loading data could take 30 minutes. 5-year monthly data appended. So there are a couple of things that you can do to speed up the data load. But if once you've gone to 5 million, then you are really at a place where every action that you're doing needs to be super finely tuned and optimized. Because imagine, you're building like an engine with multiple gears. Even if one of the cogs has a little bit of dust on it, because everything is interlinked, it can get and expanded, and by the time it comes to the last one, the rotation could be out of sync. So that's really what is happening with 5 million. So I would probably carefully evaluate my Power Query, make sure that I'm not doing anything that I can avoid doing. This is where a lot of choices have to be made. So for example, if I have got 5 million, chances are you're not bringing 5 million rows of data from Excel files, you're bringing it from a database. So maybe you can ask the database to do some of the work using SQL, or there is Power Query also offers query folding. What it means is when you connect to a database that has SQL as the interfacing thing, and you do some steps in Power Query, if Power Query thinks, oh, these steps can be done at a database level, it will update the original SQL to add those extra steps and then do less at Power Query. And so it is already kind of thinking about optimizing things for you, but you also want to make sure. So that means not doing any data type changes when they're not needed, not doing any unnecessary stuff like adding index columns and stuff like that, or not doing any operation on all the rows until and unless they're needed. So yeah, those are some generic suggestions. I mean, and if nothing else works and everything fails, then maybe throwing more memory and more processing power at it. That's really like your last resort. Apple banana, apple banana. Okay. Says, I need to combine 2 tables, finished goods and raw material, into one, and need a column that shows FG in RM in front of the material. So you would probably want to use the home merge queries option. You got 2 tables, you can merge them on a column condition, and that'll work. Try that one out. Waverly says, is it possible to create a template with Power Query? We repeatedly import CSV files of monthly bank statements from a popular bank. You can create an Excel file that has already built Power Query connection and parameterize it and all of that. It goes a little beyond answering a quick chat question, but you can do it. So I would probably start thinking about that, build it with one blank file and then parameterize it. I've done it for few clients, so you can do it. All right, Izaz says, thank you so much, Chandu. You're awesome. You are awesome as well, Izaz, and everybody else who is watching. And Rahul says, I have a solution for your monotonous work. So yeah, that's that. There you go. Abdul says, hi Chandu, is this a first or a second session? I'm not really sure where you got the impression that there is a second session. This is the only session. So yeah, I guess it's the first one or the second or the last one. Okay, that's it for the show. I hope you really enjoyed it. I'll catch you again. I do these live streams at the last Friday of every month. Friday for most people, Saturday morning for me. So I'll catch you again at the end of May. I might have some exciting announcements for you in this coming month. So you'll read them on the channel or the community post. So if you have been watching this, you enjoy it, feel free to subscribe if you want. Yeah, and like the video if you want, that's all fine. And hopefully you downloaded the files. And if you want, do check out the Power Query course that I offer. It has a recording of this live stream. I will add that and I will send that to you, as well as all the files that you used here. Plus the mini course has its own files and everything. So feel free to get that if you want. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you all again next month. Bye-bye. And I'll see you on the channel anyway.